My name is James Clark. I'm a senior lecturer in physiology at King's College. My teaching role is mainly teaching practical classes and small group exercises in physiology at both BSc and Master's level. What we're talking about today is an interactive website showing video tutorials and spoken instructions of how to use various software applications to help in data analysis and report writing. The intended audience of this project are both undergraduate students and postgraduate students, but I've found over the past few years that in fact members of staff have also found it quite useful as a resource. The system we're using at the moment is actually quite straightforward. I'm using software called Camtasia. It's a commercial software for doing screencast recording, and I'm merely just using the software to do a task that I want the student to follow. So I load the software, load the data file, I do the analysis, I talk over the top of it. Sometimes I don't talk, it depends what you want to show. And then when I finish the movie, it renders the movie as an MP4 file, which I upload to YouTube. I chose YouTube because everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows that YouTube hosts video. And then using a custom-made WordPress template, I can then upload links to those videos on YouTube and then populate the WordPress screen so that the videos appear to be in certain criteria. So there's a section on Microsoft Office, there's a section on using laboratory equipment, and there's a section on using other software. The inspiration for this project primarily was my experiences during practical classes. Having taught maybe a group of 30 or 40 students a skill in a practical class in physiology, I then have a queue of students waiting for me at the end of the class, asking me to go through some of the finer points of the software. And I'd spend 20 minutes, half an hour after every class showing the skills that they needed to then apply to the data to do their write-ups. So a little light went off in my head and said, well, why don't I just record everything I'm showing the students and then they can go back and watch it at a later date. What I wanted to achieve with this project is to set up a source of information for students to be able to browse at their will, in their own time, to find out about how to do data analysis and write reports. Having set this site up, I think we've certainly achieved what we intended to do, in that we do have now a central resource where physiology students and staff can access. But I think it's grown to slightly bigger than I originally intended it. And now we have included on the site more than just video tutorials. We've also got demonstrations of practical skills and also videos showing off the kind of work that we do at King's College in our research and our teaching. I think I found two big challenges in setting up this project. The first challenge is the obvious one, the technical challenge. How do I get what I'm trying to teach the students onto the screen? And this was helped enormously by the TEL team. They set me up a custom-made WordPress template, which I'm now using, and it just allows me to add my videos very quickly, and it's brilliant. It just works really, really well. The second challenge was actually working out what to put on the tutorials. Sometimes it's very easy just to waffle on and do a half-an-hour video explaining everything you think the student needs to know about a certain bit of software or a certain application. But in fact, you're giving them far too much information in one go. They can't take it all in. So without trying to use the word bite-sized, we used bite-sized videos with 3 or 4 minutes long, short, snappy, and it's built itself really. There's now 70 or 80 videos on there, and that sounds like a huge undertaking when you've got none. But once you start adding them, they all kind of follow on in good sequence. With regard to funding this project, as far as I know, the college doesn't offer support for software to be able to do this kind of screen recording, and certainly doesn't offer support for the audio recording that goes with it. So I've had to pay for this myself, but I think that can be a challenge for some members of staff considering doing this. You know, you need to think, do you have the right resources available to you before you make these grand plans? The response to this website has been actually phenomenal. It started off just being the WordPress site linked to unlisted YouTube videos, and within about a year of it being up, it's been up now I think 4 years, but within the first year it had about 60,000 hits. Then I decided to open the videos up, so they're no longer unlisted, but they're now public on YouTube, and since doing that about 2 years ago, I've had a further 400 to 500,000 hits. So clearly the resource is having an impact on somebody, and I've been getting a lot of good feedback from students who are loving the ability just to go and watch and watch and watch and learn what they can learn. So I'm actually finding that students are watching it in class while doing the practical to pick up ideas of how to do the analysis while they're doing the work itself, which I think is a fantastic opportunity for the students. I'll tell you a little story about this website. I had an intercalated BSc student come from another university, it was Southampton University, and about halfway through the course, she said to me, "I think I recognise your voice." And I kind of asked her, "Well, that's very strange, where have you heard my voice before?" And it turned out that one of her tutors at university had given her and her colleagues a link to this website. Something we've added to this website in the last year has been the option to suggest your tutorial. And I expected a torrent of requests, but in fact what's happened is the students have been quite thoughtful. They've looked through what's available, seen that there is a gap, and asked me to fill the gap. So it's been great for me to keep me inspired to do more work, but also I think good for the students because they get their questions answered quite quickly. I think the response from my colleagues, especially my colleagues in academia, have been incredibly good. Within the Department of Physiology we have about 30 members of staff who I know now use the links for this website on their module pages on the virtual campus and also publicise the access to this website in their module handbooks. But I was very interested to find out that some divisional leads, in other words research-based leads, had also found this website, and it's now publicly available on research divisional websites, which I think is great. I've learned quite a lot from this whole process. When I started this website, I had visions of myself slaving all day and all night to think of interesting ideas for tutorials. But as it turns out, I've been inspired by the teaching that we do in the Department of Physiology. I've been inspired by the students giving me feedback on what they think they need to see in these videos. And in fact, it doesn't take very long to produce these videos. So I just sit at the computer, it takes maybe 5 minutes to do a quick recording, and then I leave it unedited. If I make mistakes, I make mistakes, and I think the students have learned a lot by watching me make mistakes on the videos, and it helps them, I think, not to make the same mistakes when they're doing their data analysis. One of the problems with using YouTube especially to host videos is there's an ability to comment on anything. It's the world is your stage when you're on YouTube, and you can write whatever you like underneath any video you fancy. So something I had to do quite early on in this process is disable all comments on all videos. That can be a disadvantage because some comments are quite complimentary, but other comments you don't want to see on your personal video. On reflection, this exercise has actually saved me a great deal of teaching time. I would be waiting after practicals almost every week for students in a little queue asking me the same question over and over again. But what I've actually found is I can answer those questions in one video, and I've satisfied the needs of maybe 10 or 15 students. And I think that's brilliant. If I was to start this process from the beginning, I think I'd have a bigger vision to what this website could be if I'd known what it was going to be when I'd started. And I think if I had the time again to start from scratch, I would sit down with my colleagues, maybe discuss everything we needed to teach, work out a program, and then fill in the gaps. My advice to my colleagues would be to think very carefully about what they're trying to achieve. And I think the simplest thing to do is just do it. Just get on a computer, get a copy of the software to play with, learn it very quickly, and just do a couple and see what the students think of it. Do it once, see what feedback you get, and then maybe do it again. And if it doesn't work, scrap it. You haven't wasted very much time. But if it does work, carry on. Make it bigger. Make it as big as you can do without sacrificing too much of your work life. So what are the plans for the future for this website? Well, I'm going to have to expand it. You can't leave things standing still. So my intention is to expand the content not just to cover undergraduate and postgraduate teaching, but also to cover undergraduate and postgraduate research. So we're looking at adding more laboratory techniques and more of the bread and butter of a research lab, so that when students come to our lab in particular, they can just browse the website and see everything that they're going to get exposed to while they're here. So who knows? Come back in 2 years and see what's here.